Welcome to another session in Friends in Faith. Am I really good? That's the question. And we're going to look at, why am I the way I am? Why do I justify? Why do I struggle with self-righteousness? And continue to work as if I'm the source of goodness. Christ condemns, number one, those who pretend that they are good and righteous, because those are the people who really don't need God. So, the first real point we want to make today is, we are only good because God and His grace transforms my soul. Without His grace, we're not good. Original sin has separated us from God. And without Him, we have a natural tendency to be selfish, a natural tendency to put ourselves in the center, a natural tendency not to love. And we can blame Adam and Eve for that. And Paul will say, what have we possessed then that is not a gift from God? All that we have comes from Him. He is the source of our goodness, and He is the source of all of our blessings. And our soul is made to be blessed by God, to be linked with God, to connect with God. And we can't survive without His blessings, or we begin to look for false blessings to make us feel good about ourselves. The second point is, when we don't experience God's love, and all of a sudden we become very insecure. We begin to have this low-grade inferiority complex. Adam and Eve in the garden saw God face to face. And it was incredible because they knew that they were loved. They knew that when they saw His eyes, that there was this goodness within them. They're the most secure people in the world. And yet, when they betrayed God's trust and left the garden, all of a sudden they began to look for their own identity, their own security in the things of the world, in what they did, in their accomplishments, in what people said about them, in their own possessions and the pleasures of the world. And it was this false security that they could never get enough. It never filled their hearts until Christ came to redeem us. And when He redeems us, truly, all of a sudden, all this weight and frantic work of justifying ourselves and trying to make ourselves good and good enough, and looking down at others and being self-righteous, all of a sudden becomes a real obstacle for happiness. God's love produces security. Christ has adopted us. It's divine adoption. You belong to me. You don't belong to the world anymore. But with that, it's really important to, number one, do I accept my own failures? Do I accept my own defects? Do I accept my own limitations? Modern man can't do that, because that would be a sign that I'm not good enough. But the person who has accepted this, it takes so much weight off their shoulders that I gotta be good enough. No. God is the source of our goodness. And when we accept that, we have peace, happiness, and serenity. And so, my goodness no longer is an issue. I don't have to prove myself, and I don't have to look for the approval of others. It's not about right or wrong. It's about being loved and living in that love and corresponding to that love. And that's so important. And yet, when I am in a bad place, when I don't feel good about myself because I'm not connected with God, all of a sudden, we begin to look down on others. We're not living our blessing, we're almost cursing others. And when I work with couples, when I know somebody isn't living in the Lord, they become hypercritical. They notice every defect of their spouse. Why? Misery loves company. And if they feel miserable, they begin to notice every little thing. And they begin to justify themselves by all the defects that they have to live with in their spouse. The more insecure we are, the more we try to control others, the more we try to look down on others, the more we try to justify by comparing ourselves to others. And we're going to see in our next talk how easy it is to compare ourselves to the worst people in the world, as if that's going to justify ourselves. And yet, when we're loved by God, we respond by, when we're blessed, by giving back those blessings, by seeing the goodness and beauty in others, building others up with kindness. And it becomes our magical weapon. So many times we don't understand what other people are going through. And at times what they need is for us to look and see them through the eyes of God. We can be extremely insecure. So my question today is, do I need God for my own security, for my own righteousness? Today, so many people, we don't need to go to church. We don't need to pray. And we think we don't need God. And yet, we see by the level of their insecurity that unless they experience God's love, they're going to be a prisoner of that insecurity. Do I need God's love? And where does my own security come from? Do I make it? Or is it a free gift from a God who loves me, has adopted me, and made me a temple of the Holy Spirit? May we discuss this, and may we truly increase our need for God Himself. Have a great day. God bless you.